Welcome to News with a View, a Fat Cat production. I'm your host, John A. Costa. Today is August 11th, 2025, and this is episode 113. Now, I haven't had a show since the 31st of July. I had not been feeling well. I had a lot of outdoor projects that needed to get done, and the heat just broke me down. And then I took a few days R&R and spent with family. So I'm back today, August 11th. Promised wifey I would take a little bit easier and not get so bogged down into other projects. So, it is what it is. It's what I do. It's how I do it. Just the way it is. All right. Today we're going to talk about what's going on in Texas with the Democrats. Then we're going to discuss how union money is now funneling into the GOP even heavier than it has in the last year and a half or so. The other topic that I don't think that is going to be much of a topic, but you never know. And I'll talk about that why. But Supreme Court formally asked to overturn landmark same-sex marriage ruling. That could be an interesting one. We're going to talk about Chinese destroyer hits its own ships, in a dispute. Bernie Sanders makes a comment about Harris and the Democrats. And President Trump calls out the National Guard in District of Columbia, which is an interesting, but not what I would call unwarranted. So I can go back to this shot. I think I can like this shot a little bit more. Also shows it's way over there. NCUA, which National Credit Union Administration. Blue. So. All right, what's going on in Texas? The Democratic legislators, for the most part, have flown the coop, threw away their responsibilities, and said, we're not going to play this game. We're going to not do our jobs, and this will hold up the process. And I said the Democrats love holding up the process. Trump knew this going into his second term, not to trust the Democrats. They'll go, we'll work with you, and then they'll just, cut you and cut you and cut you. You die the death of 1,000 cuts. So Abbott is saying he'll just keep calling legislation, roll calls. And he'll just keep doing it over and over and over again for years. And the Democrats that are out are now being fined, I think, $500 a day until they return. And the nerve of the Democrats who were voted by the people to represent them. Go and do your job. You're not going to win it. You're not going to win this fight. But instead what you're doing is you're not doing your job. Accept the fact that the Republicans are going to try to redo districting. You guys have been doing that for years. In New York and in Illinois and in California. You've been doing that for years. So this isn't anything new. This isn't the Republicans doing it. Democrats did the same thing. Same thing. You're not doing your job. I would give them a 5 business day ultimatum. If you're not back Monday, next Monday, we're going to consider that you have abandoned your job, and we're going to go through the court to unseat you. I know that that is not a easy task to do, but if they don't come back to claim their job, right? They could send a letter. That's not going to be good enough. They got to come back and claim their job and do their job. And if they refuse, well, I know Ken Paxton has filed a lawsuit to declare the blue lawmaker seats vacant. He's up against Senator John Cornyn, a Republican of Texas. He's locked in a primary with Paxton. I think at this point, Cornyn should back out of the primaries and stick to going after the Democrats who have abandoned their jobs. So Cornyn said that claiming that the FBI is going to get involved in executing warrants and civil warrants and things of that nature. I don't see that happening. I guess it could happen, and there is legal precedent for that to happen. Bob in New York, look it up. But that would be a little drastic, but not unwarranted. Okay? So the Democrats who are now facing $500 a day fines is asking for donations to pay those fines. I mean, this is the Democrats. They have nothing. They bring nothing to the table except extremism. And I understand where they're saying the remapping and everything like that, and there are games that are played with it, and I will not dispute that fact because the Democrats have done it to their advantage. And like I said in the beginning, this is done back and forth. Back and forth. I don't think the Democrats stand a chance in 2026 with all the nonsense stuff that's going on and stuff that's coming out and still coming out, and it's going to continue. I told you, come October, folks. Come October, that ball gets rolling. And by January and February of 2026, that ball will be unbelievable. Unbelievable. The things that are going to come out with what happened in the elections with Democrats and going after the seats and securing Congress and the Senate. The Senate's a foregone conclusion. It's going to go. My prediction, again, is the Senate might grow by 4 seats. Might grow by 4 seats. The Congress, without any shenanigans or anything like that, or any map redefining, they're going to take 8 seats. Yeah. Yeah. Now, if they do this, it will be huge. Now, Trump is also calling in the background of a new census where only American citizens get counted in the process. How novel is that? Can you imagine that? Only American citizens in a national census. If a state wants to take a census for their own state, have at it. But for the federal, got to be a citizen. And again, I think the Democrats are really out on a branch here, on a limb. And, it's like the old Bugs Bunny cartoon where they're sawing the branch of they're sitting on the other side of the branch and they're cutting it. There is the only thing they're looking for is some type of aha moment. No plan, no saying, hey, this is what we want to do to create jobs, because Trump is doing that. This is what we're going to do to cut government spending, because Trump is doing that. This is how we want to protect the border, because Trump is doing that. We want to make the streets safer. Well, Trump is doing that. What do you have? Democrats, what do you offer? And don't tell me, a sane government, a stable government. We have a revolution every 4 years in this country. It's a revolution every 4 years. So the Democrats don't talk to me about bringing sanity into the picture here. Because for the last 4 years and 8 years before that, it was the ruin of this nation. Obama started it. Trump was holding it at bay. But, of course, fake dossier report from Hillary Clinton, calling for the Mueller report, which said that there was nothing there. Then Biden going after Trump with Jack Smith, and the Attorney General Garland not having that authorized correctly. You guys caused all the mayhem. The only thing that I will agree with what was done with Trump was asking for the files that he took. And that action going forward. Because there was a remedy. And they tried to do it nicely. But Trump also knew who he was dealing with in the FBI. And those aren't good people. The FBI has been contaminated. It has been for years. It has always been political. Always been political. Presidents were afraid of J. Edgar Hoover. Because he didn't care about laws. He didn't care about your rights or my rights. And he just got the facts. And, Yeah, he'd go and blackmail people. Now, those people could have said, hey, you got that information illegally. All right, we got it illegally. Yep, we sure did. And yeah, none of that can be used against you. It gets thrown out, blah, 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 whatever happens. But your career and your reputation is shot. Because the information was true, we just couldn't obtain it. We didn't obtain it legally. And no one wanted to risk that because he had such damning information. And again, not trailing off on another subject here, but what do you think Epstein was? He was a procurer. He got people together at parties. You guys cut a deal, I get a piece of it, boom, boom, I meet you, you meet him, boom, boom, boom. Normally you could never meet on the street. But here you can meet. And you have a couple of drinks. And some ladies too. And in the meantime, he fed the information to the highest bidder. Be it MI6, MI5, CIA, FBI, Russian security, KBG, Chinese intelligence, Mossad, whoever. He didn't care. But what the Democrats are doing by not standing up to the Republicans, because that's it, they're running away. They're hiding. They grabbed their marbles off the schoolyard and ran off. Put on your pants, put on your skirts, get back to your jobs. And you can go down fighting. Instead of cowering in another state, begging for money. You are the equivalent of an illegal alien asking for sanctuary. That's what the Democrats have become. Go on record when this goes through. We're against it. We're against it. This is wrong. Do what you need to do. But do your job. Do what you were elected to do. And now, of course, other states are getting involved. Newsom says that he might seek a special election to allow Democrats to redraw the state's House map. Well, they're doing the same thing the Republicans are doing in Texas. Just like they've done before there. And in New York, and in Virginia, and in North Carolina, and in Georgia. This isn't anything new. But before you had enough of a working relationship with one another that, you could stop it. You could fight it. You could make a deal. You could do something. Now, it's not, because it's all one-sided. And I've said this before on my show. I don't like one-color politics. Because one size does not fit all. And, one uniform. No. This has been going on forever. It's going to continue to go on unless, I don't know how you secure that unless you do census every year or every 2 years or whatever to find out who's actually where. And if more Democrats are on the Democrat side of a zone, well, that's the way it works. And you could get mad about stuff like that because the people that can afford a home on 2 acres, you can only put so many voters on those plots of 2 acres. Where if you take 2 acres and build 20-story building with 150 families in each unit who are getting assistance or a government program, well, how do you think they're going to vote? I mean, logic, common sense. And you want to push that into different lines and different areas. Yeah, not a good idea. I don't go. And the governor of New York, Hochul, and she's saying I'm mulling over redistricting. Hey, sweetheart, you better worry about having a job. You're out. You're out. I guarantee she's out next election. She won't make it. So Abbott said he dismissed the blue states' efforts to redraw the maps as weak sauce, claiming that those states had already engaged in partisan gerrymandering to the maximum possible extent already. And this was from the Hill. I took my information from the Hill. And like I said, Democrats try to separate their tactical use of redistricting from that of the Republic, but it's the same thing. It's the same it's the same thing. You're redrawing maps. And now the Democrats don't like it. So, all right. 21 minutes of that, folks. And this is an opinion-based show where my opinion is the only opinion that matters. Bob in New York. No, I tried putting out the information both ways. I really do. I look at it. Even with this one, I said Democrats have done it. The Republicans have done it. They have all done it. But I never remembered Republicans running away and trying to stall. That's, like I said, it is a Democratic playbook. If you can't do it this way, run away and hide. Stall up the system. I hope they all get fired. Honestly do. Hope they all get fired. I mean, replace them with Democrats, make a, whatever. I don't care. But they should be fired. Consequences, folks, for not doing your job. All right. This is from Politico. Teamsters pour money into GOP, shifting away from the Democrats. Well, this has been ongoing. And you remember you had the Reagan Democrats, and this has happened in the past. This is nothing new in the sense of Democrats voting for, Democratic labor voting for a Republican. Happened before with Trump. That happened again. But now they're kind of pouring more money into the GOP coffers. They have not abandoned the Democrats. Not yet. And I've said this before in my other shows. Democrats, and when I say Democrats, I just want to put this out to anyone watching the program for the first or second time. When I say Democrats, I don't mean my next door neighbor being a Democrat. I don't know what my next door neighbor is, but I'm just using that as an example. I'm saying the people in the Democratic political process, sitting in office. The same thing with Republicans. What I've said before in the past is if the Democrats want to stay relevant, they got to get on the Trump bus. And they can go to, listen, Mr. President, you won, you're the president. I know you have an agenda. I know you have what you want to do. But we think that, cutting 80% of the staff might not be a good idea. But 30% of the staff right now might be manageable. See how it is? And in 3 months or 6 months, you let another 15% go. Now you're up to 45%. And we'll see if everything keeps running smoothly. But we're with you. We'll cut up to where we feel that we're not going to say cut 80%, but we will not fight you on the cuts until. But we'll work with you. We won't hamper you. So you get some of this. Now you can go after the other stuff you want to go with, and we'll work with you on that. And that's what they should be doing, saying, we know you're not going to be president forever. And we can roll some of this stuff back when we're back in office, and we can do it. But in the meantime, we're part of the process. And you go to the people, listen, he wanted to cut 80. I took that 80 and got it down to 35 or 40. Half of what he wanted. And if we would have sat back and just let him do it and fight it, he'd get his 80. But by working with the president and together, we were able to come up with a consensus. That's common sense politics. That's common sense business. That's common sense. Trump would respect that. But here's the problem. He can't trust the Democrats. Democrats can't be trusted. They have proved it over and over and over again. They can't be trusted. And the Democrats will scream the same thing about the Republicans, of course. But we have seen the lies of the Democrats against the president and against other people. We have seen the lies. We've smelt it, we felt it, we tasted it. We know what those lies are. Now, you the president, yeah, he has an ego. You remember the cartoons? Go back, Colonel McBragg, he invented everything, he did everything, he found everything, he discovered everything. Well, that's what Trump is. But Trump isn't trying to get people put in jail. That's what the Democrats were trying to do. Put people in jail and falsely accuse them and falsely plant evidence and weaponized government agencies. Don't believe me? Look at what happened with Obama and the IRS. Go back and Google that, Bob. Where he tried to weaponize the IRS to go after the Tea Party. Remember that? And then you had government agencies now being DEI controlled. Everything has to have a number. Everything has to have a color. Everything, Well, now that the unions are saying no more, we're going to start giving money to Republicans. And Mike Kelly, Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, Bob, it starts with a B, I forgot the other guy's name, but he got it. I do have Pete Stauber and Tom Emmer of Minnesota. Nicole Malatis, Andrew Garbernino, Nick LaLota, and Mike Lawler of New York, Jeff Shriver of Indiana, Dave Taylor, Bob Liotta again. Let me see, did I have that twice there? Oh, that's Lotta. Okay. Dave Joyce of Ohio, Jeff Van Drew, Chris Smith of New Jersey, David Rouser of North Carolina, Tom Barrett of Michigan, Blake Moore of Utah, Darren LaHood and Mike Bost of Illinois, Troy Niles of Texas, Vern Buchanan of Florida. Those were all big money donations by unions. Well, and when I say Teamsters, I think this is Teamsters I'm discussing. Well, the political arms of those unions gave money. Teamsters, remember, was the one where we're not endorsing Biden. And realignment by donating to battleground Republicans in the Teamsters General President C. O'Brien. So, giving money. And I had tried to tell my union back in the day, anyone that will help us is a friend. Democrats have not been a friend to unions. The only thing Democrats, for the most part, did for unions was cash our checks that we gave them through our PAC funding. Really, honestly. Democrats took their convention to a non-union state. Yeah, well, they can, and they did. They did it a couple of times. But what can you do? What can you do? So a lot of people have gotten money. It's just not Congress. They gave $50,000 to the Republican Attorney General's Association this past June. Now, for the unions and Teamsters and stuff like that, to give it to them, is it? You know, it's not a lot, but it is enough to buy you a couple of minutes in front of them if you needed it. Because unions are controlled and regulated by the Department of Justice, if you're not aware of that. Unions must answer to the Department of Justice for all their spending, everything. What happens with the union dues? I mean, I've seen union officials go to jail for $150. Yeah. It's happened. So I know when I was in the union, the LM reports, labor management reports, and stuff on money and stuff. If they wanted to give me, hey, here's a bottle of, Johnny Walker Blue, couldn't take it. Thank you. If we were at a business conference type of thing and we went out for dinner, I paid my own meal. Or I didn't go. Because you're only allowed $25 a year. Now, the company fills out all type of reports because they get to deduct that as a business expense going out, negotiations and all that. So they had no problem spending the money and putting it on the card. But if they looked and they said, well, hold it, you were out with people from, local 1212. Who was that? Who was there? And did you guys pay for that meal? Let's see if they reported it. So when you dealt with the Department of Labor and you dealt with union money, you have better made sure that it was collected correctly and dispensed correctly. Because if not, they can come in and look back 5 years and turn you upside down. And we said we never wanted to see the guys in the windbreakers show up. You see them all show up with their blue FBI windbreakers on. Well, that's, believe me when I tell you, that's never a good thing to see. So, your account of the executive board who runs the union, the business manager is the financial officer. He's, at the end of the day, he's got to answer for a lot of this stuff. So you always had union counsel. You know, if there was anything big, if there was anything questionable, we would say, hey, you know, yeah, we'll donate or we'll give, you know, $1,000 to this, whatever is going on. Pending the okay from council. And we've had it on more than one occasion where council goes, hey, you can't do that. If you guys want to dig into your own pocket and give it, that's good. You can't use union money for that. So then, you know, the next meeting, you correct it and go, no, after council said we can't do that. And when the government does come in, and they come in almost every year to look at you, and they start seeing that, you know, hey, you know, you go to council for a lot of this stuff. They just put that book away and then move on to something else. They go, all right, you're doing your job. But when they don't see anything in there and they just see money flying out the door and this and that and shenanigans, yeah, then they start digging in deeper. You know, before they weren't going to look over there. Now they're going to look over there. When they look over there, you know, they're going to look over there. When they look over there, they're going to look further over. You're in trouble. You're in trouble. So we always tried to maintain that union money was used for the good of the union. And there were times where, you know, we did stuff and with council. And they came in and they go, hey, yeah, you guys really cut it close over here doing this. And hey, you know, what do we need to do with council, or what do we need to do as a union? How do you deal with this with other unions? And, you know, and they go, well, it's best if you don't do it. Don't do that like this. Don't do it like, all right. We'll change our procedures, not our bylaws. Can't change the bylaws. That has to be approved by people way above us. But our procedurals on it. And we go to the, and we go, nope, I ain't doing that. Nope. You could make the proposal, you could make a motion, and we'll turn it down on the record to show that you tried to do it, and we said no. So the union Teamsters said, our members are working people whose interests cut across party lines, and this is true. Said Kara Deniz, a Teamster spokesperson, told Politico, there is no value in living in a bubble where you only talk to certain people to the exclusion of others. And this is true. And like I said before, you go to people that can help you. People that come in who ask for a donation, they go, hey, listen, I'm a Republican. You have a political committee here. You know, I was in the neighborhood. I'll give you a half hour. Talk with me, walk with me, ask me questions. Hey, yeah, I want to see more buildings go up over here. I want to see the TV news crews. I want to see all that stuff. I like that. I don't get my voice out unless I'm heard. Now, we were in the TV business, union side, so who better? And they could help. Hey, we're having a problem over here. You know. And sometimes they go, hey, I'd love to help you. Can't help you with that. All right. But, you know, when they shut the door 3 or 4 times in your face, and then you go, all right, well 2 years when you come back up here, well, you're going to see our door. We tried. And it's very hard for a union on its own, not as a whole body, to be political without a lot of money. So they've given, Teamsters still gave money, and you know, to the Democrats. Democrats got a lot of money from the unions, but you could see a shift in that. You could see a shift going the other way. So supporting the unions, supporting the Republicans has now gained some traction. The union members themselves are more open to backing Republicans. They're not having a problem openly coming out and saying, we support this candidate. Whereas before they never could. They go, well, you know, we're not, both of them. Now some of these unions are actually taking sides, and they're Republican sides. And this should be a warning signal to the Democrats, as I said before. And I said this since Trump won. Get on the bus with Trump. It is your only hope. If you think you're going to tangle with him in court or stop, he's made sure that's not going to be a problem anymore. So you have become irrelevant. And for a politician, that's the worst thing you could have happen to you. Is how do you get it back? Trump would have to do so bad. And that ain't happening. And you see all this stuff of, you know, the MAGA is abandoning the Republicans and not happening. It's lies. Lies. Lies and slander. But it's not. Now, are some MAGA people upset with Trump? Yeah, sure. Just like they were upset with Democrats who then voted for Trump. Yeah, it happens. But I would say that just look at the approval ratings. And don't say, well, his approval rating on this one thing. No. You got to take them all. You can't. You can't be certain on doing some of those pollings the way they do it. There is a right way, and there are some polling companies out there that, you know, absolutely stand by, you know, their facts. But, you know, I can make a poll, do anything I want by framing a question in a certain way. So we know how that works. And labor unions are finally recognizing the fact that their memberships are made up of workers from across the political spectrum. And said one candidate who received $5,000 from the Teamsters and whose grandfather was a member of the IBEW. So they've given close to like $90,000 to political Republican organizations, which never happened before. I mean, that just didn't happen. But when you look to see what the Democrats have done for the rank and file, nothing. Nothing. Biden hired them as federal employees and got them into, ASME or whatever that is, union is, Federated Workers thing. And it was a make-believe job. He loaded and goes, the job growth grew. Yeah, because you hired him. That wasn't private industry hiring people. It was the government. Now, does the government have to hire people? Absolutely, they have to hire people. But not at the numbers they were doing. So, the bottom line, Democrats, union people, no jobs, no union. Just saying. All right. Little ditty from Good Morning America. They put out something. The Supreme Court formally asked to overturn landmark same-sex marriage ruling. Now, do I think they're going to flip on that? I don't know. Now, this is from the Kim Davis, the Kentucky clerk who would not, in 2015, after refusing to issue a marriage license to gay couples on religious grounds. Well, I disagreed with her. If your religious ground interferes with your job, that job has its rules and regulations and laws that it must follow. Then you leave the job. That's it. I can't morally do the job. Physically and mentally I can do it, but morally I cannot. So I have to leave. But she didn't. She refused. She said, my religious beliefs, pardon the thing, trump your rules and laws and everything else. I got a problem with that, folks. That's not how the system works. And she spent 6 days in jail or something. She should have. In her position, she refused, and they go, hey, listen, issuing under protest, And she refused. Well, don't refuse to do your job, and you're fired too, and we can sue you. So she's asking, is appealing a $100,000 jury from the couple who asked for $100,000, who won a verdict of $100,000 and $260,000 for legal costs. So, lawyers took this on, said, hey, we want 2/3 of a settlement instead of 1/3. So if you get $360,000, you're going to get $100,000. We're going to take $260,000. So a little bit more than 2/3. And she was sued. You're not protected, not doing your job. The county fired her, and then these people filed a suit. They eventually did get married. And even after Supreme Court turned around and said, yeah, no gay marriages. No. Well, back then it was law, and she refused to do it. She did not fight that it was, well, maybe she said under her religious belief it's a constitutional issue. I don't think they would buy that. Because she had a remedy for that. Quit. That was a remedy. Quit. Like I said, common sense. Common sense. If I want the Democrats to use common sense, I demand that of the Republicans. Common sense. I don't think she's in the petition, she's saying the First Amendment right frees her of her personal liability for a denial of a marriage license. I don't know. I don't think it would in her case, because she was a clerk and she knew her job. What her job was to do is to hand out marriage license. And if gay marriages were recognized in Kentucky and she refused to do it, no, you are not protected. Now, if she was a private citizen standing on the sidewalk going, yeah, gay marriage is wrong, it's bad, it's blah, 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 she could do that all day long. No problem with it. As long as she didn't interfere with them, as long as she didn't touch them, as long as she didn't block them, as long as she didn't threaten them. No problem. But she wasn't a private citizen. She was a county clerk. So, consequences. Remember I was talking about that? Consequences. All right. We're almost an hour into this. Chinese destroyer rips the bow off a Chinese Coast Guard cutter during an intense harassing maneuver against a Filipino Coast Guard ship. So they were trying to do a maneuver where the one boat is in the middle here and these two come up the side, and then they were using fire hoses to, douse. They stay a little behind, shoot forward, and stay behind. But what happened was the Coast Guard, the Filipino Coast Guard boat, gunned it while maneuvering, and I think it got caught in its wake. And the other ship got caught, and it did one of these things because of bad seamanship on the part of the Chinese Navy. And they got drawn into it, and the bow hit the destroyer. Did absolutely I don't think any damage to the destroyer other than scratch the paint. But it tore the front of the Coast Guard cutter right off, and that boat became not seaworthy. So, but it didn't sink or anything. They closed off doors and did what they needed to do, and then the ship had to scurry on back to China. But when you play games on the high seas like that, bad things can happen, mostly on those type of boats and the tonnage you're talking about and the speeds, and that's that's already happened with the Americans, where There was a mid-air collision. The Chinese pilot was killed, and they never found him or her. But the plane was so damaged, it had to land in China. It had to make an emergency landing, and they allowed it to land in China. The guys in the spy airplane, P-3 Orient, they destroyed everything. And then the Chinese, did what they did with them for 2 weeks, boom, boom, and then we got our plane back. In the meantime, they took everything apart that they could take apart. But that's the way that goes. But it's very dangerous. You play cat and mouse with the United States Navy or the British Navy or the French, the Spanish, or the Italian navies. You might have you might have a problem, and you go after their aircraft or light them up. And if all of a sudden, hey, all right, they got us on their radar, they see us on their radar, they're painting us, but all of a sudden you got a missile lock on you, you can shoot that other plane down. So you got to be real careful and make sure if you're going to do that, you have your best pilots up there playing that game. But all you need is one little mishap, and that becomes a shooting gallery. And, usually it's the first guy that shoots that wins. Just saying. All right. Bernie Sanders blamed Harris. That she only attracted very wealthy people. And that's why Harris failed. Now, before we were monogonistic, we were racist, we were homophobes. But now it's wealthy people. Hey, Bernie, you lost because she sucked. She lost, and the Democrats lost because you kept propping up a guy that should not have been propped up. And you lied. Not you, Bernie. You're an independent. But the Democrats lied. And they stunk like fish in the heat. And people said, enough of your freaking foolishness. We had a primary. We wanted Biden, and all of a sudden you're giving us Harris, who no one voted for. So, and you're going to say that the Democrats, went after, well, where are you going to get your freaking money from? Where do you think you're going to get your money from? I know you and AOC went to colleges and did your college, give me $5, give me $2. And people go, oh, $2, $5. Hey, that adds up. That adds up. But the Democrats failed for so many reasons. It just wasn't one reason. There were moral issues. There were truth issues. No. And you think this is going to go away in a year. Not. 2026 is fast approaching. And you guys are going to be slaughtered. Slaughtered. You had Nancy Pelosi talking about, a transgender, and she made absolutely no sense. Whether she was, whether she's senile, whether she was drunk, whether she was, suffering a medical condition at the time. Hey, her time is gone. Same with Warren. Same with Bernie. AOC is in trouble. Democrats, you're in for a pounding. You're in for a pounding. All right. Trump places D.C. police under federal control and deploys National Guard in the nation's capital. Well, yeah, he can do that. He can do that. And what he should be doing that is telling the mayor of Philadelphia, the mayor of Los Angeles, the mayor of Chicago, even the governor of Florida. You go to Orlando, and that's a crime scene. And, the Democrats will, well, that's just a minor. We're not going to have the police go about broken a window or something like that. But if a lot of these crimes are being committed by people that do little crimes that then turn into big crimes. And those little crimes, they should have been locked up and not out there to expand. You take New York City, just as an example. You think any of those people that push someone in front of a train in the subway had a Metro card? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say they jumped a turnstile, but because the police turned a blind eye and told not to, that guy ends up on the platform and pushes someone. So there you took something that wasn't a big deal. He jumped a turnstile. You think some guy going down to Wall Street is jumping the turnstile in a suit? I've never seen that. I rode the subway for 30 years. I'll tell you who jumped turnstiles. And it wasn't guys in suits or women in dresses. All right? So we know where the problem is. We know. Why are we afraid to say that Chicago's major crime is because it's majority black? It's black on black crimes. Philadelphia, black on black crime. More crimes against blacks on blacks than there are blacks on whites, comparatively. So we know where the problem is. Why isn't it being addressed? Why isn't it being discussed? Oh, because we can't do that. Oh, he. Can't point out the obvious. We got to make an excuse on why they do it. All right. Make up an excuse, but don't deny that they're not doing it. That's all. Give me an excuse. They were slavery. Well, those people came from Africa 6 years ago. Or came from this other country 12 years ago. They're here illegally. They weren't slaves. So give me another one. Well, they were not given an education. Well, they came here at 22 years of age. We had nothing to do with their education. And give me another one. Well, they're not being housed properly. All right. Let them live with you. Stop. Make the excuses. Go ahead. Make the excuses. But don't deny the facts of who's committing these crimes. And do white people commit crimes? Absolutely they do. Absolutely they do. And how do we know that? Because they get arrested. All right? I'm going to leave you at that. Give to a charity if you can. Charity does begin at home. But you go to that charity. Don't have that charity go to you. Don't become a victim helping a victim. If you're not comfortable with that, give to a food bank, toilet paper, clothing, shoes, toys. They'll take it all. And you go, well, yeah, what's the big deal? Well, a couple of cans of food to the person who doesn't have a couple of cans of food, that's a big deal. So, look at it that way. Say a prayer. Prayer does work. Be safe. And with that, I am going to fade to black.